Now, there is a Blu-ray release in the United States of the film we're about to talk about, which is a new 2024 science fiction action horror film called Werewolves. And werewolves is not a euphemism or a metaphor for something else. There are actual werewolves in this film. Now, this is a 4K release of the film. I had to get it imported from Germany. As you can see on the back here, we got some German language going on up here, which that probably means werewolf, but I don't really speak German. I could probably get it translated pretty easily, but I didn't. But this is the first time watching the film myself, and I'm going to talk about my impressions of it. Now, I have, before purchasing the film, I did hear a couple of things about it. One is it kind of gets mid-range reviews. I didn't read the actual reviews, but it does seem to be kind of in the middle, kind of mixed reviews from critics. Another thing I heard was that people are pretty impressed with the practical use of special effects for the werewolves, even though there is some CGI in the film, but there is a lot of practical special effects, which I approve of. Now, my question is this film an exciting new addition to the werewolf subgenre, or is it really just a mid-level film? We're going to talk about that and more in this review. Now, my name is Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. If you go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to show you a couple other werewolf films that, for the most part, I approve of. Some of these are not. I mean, I guess a couple of them, which I'll let you know when I get to them. But here's, for instance, the original Wolfman with Lon Chaney Jr. Now, a lot of people may think that this is dated, but it did start it all. And I actually kind of like the design of the werewolf makeup here, which they kind of went along in this remake from 2010 with Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins. But this one this is a new Scream Factory release. I do have a video, you can check that out, where I reviewed this film, and that one's actually, it's better than I remembered it. Now the special effects there's a lot of computer animation for the werewolf in there, which a lot of people didn't like. One of the probably the best, if not the best, werewolf film is American Werewolf in London. Now they did have, and I had to get this imported from Germany as well, a sequel. The American Werewolf in Paris, which I did a podcast on Conversations in Horror about this one. Now this one is not very good, but it does have some. It's pretty hilariously not good, really, and it does have some redeeming qualities. I will say that. Another one that's very well known and which I like is The Howling, and there's a Ginger Snaps trilogy. The first one in this is very good. There's diminishing returns for the sequels, but they're all fairly entertaining. And of course, Dog Soldiers. And those are some of my favorite werewolf films. Now, there are, not to say there aren't others that are equally as good, but back to Werewolf. And this film, it seems to take place in the future, maybe in the near future. But so there is a supermoon that happens. It apparently happens about once a year. When that supermoon happens, like, everybody can turn into a werewolf, any human. If you're inside your house and you block off your house, you don't become a werewolf. But if, say, the window gets busted out and the moonlight shines through the window, you're going to turn into a werewolf. This reminds me a lot of The Purge. It's like The Purge were werewolves. I bet that's how the pitch was like. On top of that, even has Frank Grillo in the film. Now, Frank Grillo is in 2 of the Purge films. I believe he is probably the only actor who plays a main character in two of the Purge films like that. But they need to bring him back for another Purge sequel. There's been talks about it. I've seen them talking about it online. Maybe it'll happen. But anyway, back to the werewolf story. So Frank Grillo works for this. There's 2 things going on with this character. One thing is his brother used to be a cop or something like that, and he was killed, I guess, the previous year, or maybe in some other incident. But his wife is a widow now, and she has a daughter. Now he goes to their house, and he puts up a really elaborate safety, like a big fence around their house and all this other crazy stuff to try to help them be protected from when the werewolves happen, because he can't be there. Even, I guess, even if he was there, he'd probably still put this stuff up anyway. But he can't be there because he's working with these scientists who have an idea and they're trying to come up with a way to stop this or keep this werewolf transformation situation at bay. But first off, we're talking more about the family. So he gets them set, and then he has to leave, and then he goes into the laboratory, big warehouse building. Now, Lou Diamond Phillips is also in this film, and he gets the "and" credit in the end credits. But he's in charge of this facility. What they're doing is they've gotten, I think it's 4 volunteers, and they're humans who will turn into werewolves if if they react to the moon. There's other ways of not turning, like if people wear suits, like it seems like they wear like space type of suits, or if they wear something that covers their face. I'm not sure exactly what the science is behind this, but some things you can wear can prevent you from turning into a werewolf. But these scientists have come up with this other design, a little digital thing that you can keep on you that keeps you from changing as well. But they've come up with a new thing that they think is going to work, and they've injected it into these four volunteers. They put them in cages. They put these big metal collars around them. So and the idea is like once they got a moon door or something like that, where they're going to open it up and expose the moon to them. And in theory, they're not going to change into werewolves. That's what they hope anyway. And so that's the setup, and everything goes wrong that can go wrong once the moon thing opens. It's good for a while, but then they do start to change and into werewolves, and then everyone in the facility who thinks that they're safe, they got their suits on and all this, and they got these got people in cages. They think that they're safe, but everything goes wrong that can go wrong, and they start to panic. And because of their panicking, they don't do the things that they should have done to prevent these werewolves from getting out. So the lab turns into a complete catastrophe. So the only two people who get out of this research facility without either turning into a werewolf or getting killed, or of course Frank Grillo's character Wesley Marshall, and another character named Amy Chen, played by Katrina Law. Now Katrina Law's character Amy Chen was the girlfriend of one of the guys who was volunteering to turn into a werewolf to do the experiment on. But those two escaped. So after they get out of there, their next thing they want to do is go back to Frank Grillo's character's Wesley's his brother's wife's house to try to make sure they're safe. So most of the film deals with them trying to get back over there and all the stuff on the streets they have to deal with. Kind of very similar to the Purge film. I think it's the second Purge film where Frank Grillo's character's out on the streets having to deal with the Purge stuff, trying to get somewhere. It has a kind of similar vibe to that, but they're dealing with werewolves. They also deal with some other people who are dressed up with clothes on to protect themselves from the moon that are trying to kill werewolves as well. But sometimes the people are typically the people are sometimes just as dangerous as werewolves. So a lot of the film deals with that, and this is about an hour and 32-minute film, so it's a pretty brisk length, and it flows by pretty quick. And really, the action pieces in the middle are pretty exciting for the most part. I think it's, I thought it was pretty well done. I guess maybe you could say it was mediocre just because of the kind of it's pulling from other films like The Purge and things of that nature. As far as the werewolf special effects, I really appreciate the fact that they are, for the most part, practical. Some of the transformations do have CGI involved. They have to do it, I guess, to make it work. But they were trying to go all practical, but it's tough for the werewolf film. Now, sometimes on the werewolves, when you see the close-up of the faces, or just in depending on the lighting scenario, their face may look a little plasticky or fake, and also on their chest plates, sometimes they look plastic-like or fake. And it all depends on the lighting. Now, the good thing about this film, it's called Werewolves, and it does deliver. There are a lot of werewolves in the film, which it makes it a very exciting film. It's cool to see a lot of werewolf fights going on, or we do have a werewolf fight near the end, but most of it's people against werewolves and werewolves hunting people. Now, it doesn't go over the top graphic violence with a lot of the things that are going on, especially because of the way that it's lit darkly for the most part. Now, of course, all the violence takes place at night because that's when the werewolves are going to be out. And so it's lit fairly dark, and most of the time when some violent stuff happens, it doesn't get too over the top with it, and which is a good and bad thing. But I think it works in a way so that maybe people who are still kind of young could watch the film and not be grossed out by it. It doesn't try to gross you out too much. So let's take a quick peek at this release. Now, there's not a lot to this. Unfortunately, did not have a slipcover when I got it, but there's only one disc. There's not a Blu-ray. It's only a 4K in here. If there was a Blu-ray, it probably wouldn't play because it's from Germany. It would probably be like a Region B or something like that. Now, the only difference between this and the inside of the insert is here you have this German release. It says 16, so it's saying the age 16. So that's kind of fairly appropriate, I think, because it doesn't go, like saying, it's not too graphic. So that's pretty much it as far as the release. Now, here it does mention HDR, and it says a lot of German stuff about HDR. Now, HDR is a very impressive addition to the 4K UHD experience. It does bring out it says more lifelike colors, and it does bring out those colors and the details a lot. I do see, especially you can look on like the way that Frank Grillo's close-ups look, and just his face in general with the lighting. You can just see the color of his skin and looking a lot more lifelike, and the texture looking very nice. Now, I don't have the Blu-ray to compare this to, but I think it looks terrific. I think especially on the close-up of the faces and things of that nature, it all looks great. And the lighting is very dark, but you can tell what's going on the whole time. There's never like a question of what's happening and what's not happening during the course of the film. All right, let's go ahead and rate this film. I'm going to rate this on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. I'm going to put this at about a 3.5 star rating. I will say I think this film is underrated and more people need to take a look at it. It is a fairly exciting film. The pacing is brisk. I really like Frank Grillo's performance in the film, even though he's playing a character similar to the Purge films, and he did this kind of Groundhog Day action film that Boss Level. He did Boss Level, but it's kind of similar character, but his presence is welcome in these type of films, and they do kind of make it a little bit different, where he's kind of seems to be struggling with a possible werewolf thing, because him and pretty much everybody's could turn into a werewolf, and they're trying to hold back that. They're kind of like zony in certain situations. So he's an action hero, but at the same time you can tell he's struggling with that, which helps with the performance. And also appreciate, of course, this practical special werewolf effects. I would much rather the werewolves be practical than CGI. I don't mind the help of CGI, but I don't like it when they're completely CGI. Anyway, if you've seen this film, let me know what you think about it. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm Dave Watkins. Thanks for watching.